Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's 4:30 a.m. and we have much to do. The day is young. The day is young. It's a really good trick to just like say one thing in a dramatic voice and then repeat it a couple times and people think, "Oh, yeah, he knows what he's going to say. This is planned. There's a plan here."
Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish.
Okay, so yesterday we started talking about the imagination, and we had quite a few friends join us. And I played a Vervaeke video that was the wrong video and had no, and that was really fun. And now my screen's just gone completely black. Won't even put my my face up. That's really fun. I'm being congratulated for doing nothing. Also fun. Testing, but the mic's working, so we might just be rolling the black this morning. I can't. Oh, nope, not rolling the black. Okay. So, not me. It's not you, son. It's not you, boy. It's not you. It's not you. Also, I missed the light behind me. Neil was like, "Yo, you gotta lower that light, man. Like, get that light behind Buddy the Elk." So I did it for a couple days, but I miss being able to just kind of like blind. I love the blinding effect. Um, oh, you know what? It just see, I have this problem because like I have always been able to live in my art, but never in my life.
My Dinner with Andre.
My Dinner with Andre?
A Dinner with Andre.
My Dinner with Andre.
Those are the kind of movies I generally like. I like other kinds of movies too.
It's just this crazy conversation.
There's that great scene where Andre Gregory is talking to Wallace Shawn, and he says, you know, we have to wonder if such a thing as a human person will still be a thing in the future.
See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished. And that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing.
I finished A Dinner with Andre the same night that he watched it, and so it's one of those things that pops up, you know? All of a sudden there's these weird resonances, and there's these weird
Serendipities.
Well, why do you think that is? I mean, why is that? I mean, is it just because people are lazy today, or they're bored? I mean, are we just like bored, spoiled children who've just been lying in the bathtub all day, just playing with their plastic duck, and now they're just thinking, well, what can I do?
Have you seen that?
No.
You know, we talked a fair amount yesterday about what is a human being, what is a person, and I made my claim. Oh, I didn't put the banner up. There's too many things to put up. There's just too many things. I'm supposed to put this up. I was supposed to tell you that at Ezra Go, we're gonna have a film discussion tonight on Ezra's channel at Ezra Go, and that's gonna be at 8 p.m. Central. I would say other time zones, but my time zone Central, so I'm covered. So you got to figure out for yourself what time zone you're in and what's your relationship to the Central time zone. Central, the important one. Central. Okay, so this screen just does not want to play nice. And I even had a whiteboard, but I can't do a whiteboard without a screen. So we will, what happens if I add this? Okay, so this still works. So we'll do a little review quick, a little review roundup. And then if my screen starts working, we'll do some whiteboard review. And eventually we're going to get to Ian McGilchrist and the Imagination. Oh, I should probably drop the link, shouldn't I? Invite guest, copy, and paste. Enter, enter, enter. So there was a great little conversation last night with Skankenstein about Detective, because there's this thing called This Little Zine, which I am a part of. This will be the 3rd edition of This Little Zine. The last edition was Cyberpunk Islam. So we wrote short stories with that prompt. For this 3rd edition, the prompt is detective. It's about as broad and as vague as, well, detective. And if you want to write a short story with us that has something to do with detective, then leave a comment and we'll get it over to Skank, because I'm not going to post his email because I just, too many emails, too many channels, too many things to click. But yeah, detective's really, I think that's a fun genre. I do want to watch his other video because he's still making camping trailers. You know, this one's, I think he's got to be by, he says volcano, so I'm thinking Mount St. Helens, just because I know where he lives. So, yeah.
Hello, America. Skankenstein here. Once again, encourage you to join us June 12th for the 14th for the Greater Regional Ingression Protocol. One of the reasons I'm so excited about this weekend, it gives us all the opportunity to leave the world that has been formed to accommodate most of our whims and desires, and it's calling us to enter into the world that is fundamentally indifferent to most of our whims and desires. We have to accommodate to the world we're entering into when we can't. And I believe there really is something genuinely good for the soul about standing at the base of an active volcano that threatens to destroy my home and everything in it. It really draws different things out of your soul and adds a really unique flavor to your experience.
Like fear of death.
So please, pull up a seat at one of our many campfires around this great nation. And remember, Embody, we want what's best for you.
Scott, what is best for you?
What do you mean?
I mean, everybody wants what's best for you. Like, what is best for you? What is it that everyone wants?
I don't. I think we know what we want, but oftentimes it's the whole reaching and grasping, and then you get it, and like the Midas touch, or I heard somebody mentioning something else about another mythological guy. I think it's more about emptying than filling.
Oh, are we doing kenosis over here?
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, man, you got to hang out with some more ortho bros. It essentially means emptying. But if there was an ortho bro here, they would be insulted that I said it essentially means emptying, because it means much more than emptying, because a word is always more than a word.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I'm coming to this place with the Trinity that it's somehow that spirit is linked to the word. I don't know. I love how the Orthodox Church is so spirit focused. But so I try try not to want. He leadeth me to green pastures, I shall not want. I'm in a green pasture. He put me here.
I mean, I think you're in a car, but
Yeah, but it's filled with a spirit that, yeah.
something's moving that thing down the road.
Gasoline.
Yeah.
Fire. Explosions.
I feel like Grim Grizz would be angry with me because you're on stream and you're in a car. But then I think about like old radio shows and like, wasn't everybody in cars on the old radio shows? Like, wasn't everybody calling in from vehicles while driving?
Maybe not at first, because everybody didn't have cell phones. But then eventually, I'm sure. But, I mean, a lot of people are in cars. I mean, I'm thinking about Chad and Sartori. They're always jumping on these things in their work vans.
Yeah. Did you know that Brett is a musician?
No, I did not.
Okay, well,
but I did hear about his lyre.
Yeah. So don't watch this because you're driving, so don't look. And there's going to
Okay.
be nothing for you to hear, but I'm going to play it because Brett walks into his studio with a lyre strapped to his back like a boss. I swear I clicked play. Oh, there he is. And there's, yep. Readjust. Look, man, just deadpans the camera. That's right. I see you. Yeah, I'm carrying a lyre. You think this is a harp. This is not a harp. This is a lyre. Let me place my lyre upon the shelf. Let me show you just the corner of my lyre. You cannot handle the full sight of my lyre. My lyre is too beautiful for your eyes to behold. Let me phone my head so that I may hear you.
Hello, Embody.
Hello, Brett.
Morning.
First stream. Hope.
Well, welcome to your first stream. I think it's going great, Brett.
I didn't get to watch it live, but I watched it when I got home.
I didn't watch the end, so... Oh, there's my name up there. So maybe I got pretty close to the end. Oh, my name's just still up there. Yep, even at the end, I'm still there. Oh, there's Christian Diaspora. Okay, I want to pull up this whiteboard. And I want to quickly talk about what I pitched yesterday. Oh, are we going to have the brake light thing where you like your face looks red and you're in a leather jacket and you look really cool?
Yes. I don't have the leather jacket today. I have my superhero outfit on.
Scrubs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or otherwise known as pajamas.
So my claim about a human being is that a human being is a threeness inside of a oneness.
Yeah. I tend to agree.
And that there's a part of us that's a body. There's a part of us that is rational. There's a part of us that is imagination. And then like the I of us comes from where the body and the rationality and the imagination meet. And I want to talk about the imagination Yeah, see the whiteboard. I like the whiteboard, but I'd have to get a way better camera set up because there's nothing. You can't see that at all. We'll see. I don't know about that. Scott, I muted you, but I'm going to unmute you. So this book right here is it's called Critical Theory Since Plato by Hazard Adams, and it's interesting because critical theory is a kind of a peculiar word. If we read the introduction, it will say, the term critical theory is used here not in the sense employed by the Frankfurt social critics. Most everybody today, if you know the word critical theory, you know it in the context of the Frankfurt social critics. But it didn't mean that for a very long time, and I refuse to give them that. And if you don't know what the word is, this is just completely pedantic, and that's okay. Okay, Hazard is a great name. Like, imagine naming your child the first name Hazard. But critical theory is essentially like the study of like literature. So like the first page of this is Plato, Aristotle, Horace, Longinus, Plotinus, St. Augustine. We're in table of contents. Second page, Boethius, St. Thomas Aquinas, Dante, Boccaccio, Castelvetro, who's going to work on the Poetics of Aristotle, Sidney, that's a poet, Mazzoni, who's going to work on Dante, Tasso, who's going to work on the heroic poem, and then it goes on and on. And eventually you get to the Frankfurt School, but that's like really, really far away. And so it's just funny to me how much we have like our lack of knowledge of history. We just give away so much. And one of the things that's been given away is poetry. And essentially, I just keep bumping into people who keep talking about like, yeah, we just need the return of poetry. And I'm like, sure, yeah, I can keep reading poetry. Like if we need the return, we can return. All right, Scott, I'm throwing it to you.
I have a difficult time with poetry. It's slow. One of the things that this week has been kind of cool with, the bouncing back and forth and Chad's poem and then him turning it into an actual video, something real. And I think I commented on his video of his poem. It was really beautiful to see that in his intimacy was born this thing that was then shared, brought into existence, and got to see the light of reality with him making then the video. And poetry's intertwined in all the things that I think spark us in an emotional and deep way, like within the songs or in the modern world in our little jingles for selling stuff. So being able to rediscover it maybe is, I don't think it would hurt.
Okay, I have to ask you a question because you said Chad had a poem. Technically, it was flash fiction. But then you said he had a poem and he made it real by turning it into a video. Why would you think the video is more real than the poem?
I would say the dimensionality of it. Because the story had, it had dimensionality when we read it in our own kind of imaginary. But then when it becomes a video, it kind of gets solidified in a a more physical or a higher dimension. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. That's why I said that.
Interesting.
I wouldn't know. I maybe saying it's more real isn't necessarily the right way to say it, but to your point. But that's why I said it.
I mean, like, my opinion would be that it's fundamentally less real, but that functionally, because we use videos more than we use poetry, videos are more real to us. But I would argue that's disordered. I would argue that a video should not be more real to us than someone bearing the soul. But like I'm saying today, we don't even want to. We don't even want to hear someone bare their soul. It's cringe. But if there's a video element where I'm going to assume it was an AI generated old man, unless Chad found an old man. So if we can AI generate something to keep attention, then the AI generation is more real to us. I think most people would have that natural feeling. And I'm going like, what is going on that AI generation feels more real to us than poetry? And I'm not trying to like be judgmental, and this is just my opinion, but this is also my claim.
Yeah, I think there's something super interesting in that. Where my mind went is kind of like the idea that evolution is the idea that a species moves forward and becomes better or progresses forward better, but what it actually is a degradation of the genetic code.
Wild idea. That's fascinating.
Because you can't, like, it's the old saying, you can go from a wolf to a chihuahua, but you can never go from a chihuahua back to a wolf.
Just real quick, CW, to be clear, I did not say Frankfurt is bad. The only thing I said was that they took critical theory and now they own the term, and I'm not okay with that. I think there's a lot of interesting things that comes out of Frankfurt, and I would agree with you on probably about 80%, and then you and I would fight viciously over the last 20%. Sartori, what do you have for us?
Well, I think it's very interesting what you guys are just talking about, because I've thought a lot about, like, it's so interesting because obviously you encounter people from different, like, church traditions. They have very strong opinions about things. So, I'm Protestant, and so I'm not iconoclast. I don't think we should destroy images, or I don't even necessarily mind them in sacred spaces, but I see, like, the problem of getting too attached to them, or whatever, and just thinking about, like, so it's interesting because, like, in the Eastern tradition, they pedestalized icons, and then they have really pushed back against, like, instruments in worship, and whereas, like, Protestantism, like, music has become the highest thing. It's like Bach is Lutheranism personified in some sense, or whatever. But it's just really interesting because as somebody who creates things, like, I could, and drawing and painting were, like, the first arts that I really got involved with, and it's interesting because there's always this, like, trade-off, and this is even, like, the thing with, like, an AI video. So because I've been using those, and that in Notebook LM, the ones it makes, the new, like, cinematic mode they came up with, it does a really good job, especially of compressing something that's like 40, 50 pages because it gets all of the not all the details that you write about are spoken of, but it like absorbs. You can even see like when I wrote about medieval stuff, it chose like the aesthetic look that fit that. So it's like some of the point was actually just translated into the images, and then the narrator was saying some of the words that I said. So it's interesting. It's like, and I will, like, as the creator, put my rubber stamp on it, because I'm like, yeah, this got the gist across. Like, there's some videos I only release them if they're good. If they don't come out good, I won't share it. But if it's good enough, I will. And that makes it more digestible. But all I did was say, make a video of that. For me, the fruitful part for me was writing 50 pages. Like, that's what did a work in me, not making the video. But if I had, and I think, obviously this is like, if you're Jonathan Peugeot and like Jordan Hall, you were saying this, like, whenever he's going, like, whenever he's saying, like, how do you say this? How do you say this? He's thinking in pictures and he's trying to figure out how to do words. So for him, it's like, let me just draw a picture. Drawing is the faster way to get from his brain to your brain. But for other people, it's different. Sometimes it's words, sometimes music. And so, like, and sometimes, just thinking about, like, because I think personally, in some ways, music, and especially like live performed music, is the most like spiritual art form in some ways, because it's so transitory. It's gone. Like, if you think before recordings, like, how haunted were people when they heard like music for the first time, and then it was like, oh, how do I experience that again? It's like you have to save up to the, go to the city and, watch an orchestra or something, and obviously people had like folk music and stuff, but even still, but the thing about that is that it's there's the least evidence. There's no evidence of a live, unrecorded live musical performance that can later be turned into idolatry. The only place it lives is in your memory, but that experience changes you. So it's like the most change and the least like permanence that it leaves behind. So because that was the trade-off that I was always wrestling with, because it's even like wherever it says there somewhere in Kings, or how they started worshiping that snake that was in the that they crafted in the desert, that Moses crafted. And it's like, for like, first it was a thing that God actually used, then it was a reminder of what God had done, but at a certain point it became problematic. And so anything that's like perishable, the perishableness of it actually has a value. So things should have some shelf life, I guess you could say. But however long it is difficult to say. I mean, that's also the point of the title of my book, The Tenth Before Temple.
Oh, you muted.
It's interesting because I was thinking about that through Ethan's lens, and how you placed value on it being material, much like I did, but by thinking of it through Ethan's lens, and it also makes it invaluable, because now it becomes corruptible. It becomes available to rot and rust, and because it's not right in the ethereals, let's say, living amongst all of us, it's now in the physical. And does that track, Ethan?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to read 2 paragraphs and then play a little bit of this McGilchrist video, and then Olson's going to lead the charge into wherever we go
whenever I pause the McGilchrist video. The one thing Sartori said that like was for me like a huge like click, click, click was when he was talking about things need a little shelf life, but they need to be perishable. Like you could apply that to food. When you create food that has a permanent shelf life and does not rot, like that's dead food. That's not living food. And we just spend most of our time eating dead food. And
That's a Twinkie.
We spend most of our time consuming dead things, whether it's like with our minds or our souls or our bodies. Most of the inputs in our postmodern world are dead inputs. Okay, this is 2 paragraphs. This is on the pleasures of the imagination. The Spectator, number 411, June 21st, 1712. This is Joseph Addison. He starts with a quote from Lucretius, but it is in Latin, and I can't read Latin. So 2 paragraphs. Our sight is the most perfect and most delightful of all our senses. It fills the mind with the largest variety of ideas, converses with its objects at the greatest distance, and continues the longest in action without being tired or satiated with its proper enjoyments. The sense of feeling can indeed give us a notion of extension, shape, and all other ideas that enter at the eye, except colors. But at the same time, it is very much straitened and confined in its operations to the number, bulk, and distance of its particular objects. Our sight seems designed to supply all these defects and may be considered as a more delicate and diffusive kind of touch that spreads itself over an infinite multitude of bodies, comprehends the largest figures, and brings into our reach some of the most remote parts of the universe. It is this sense which furnishes the imagination with its ideas, so that by the pleasure of the imagination or fancy, which I shall use promiscuously, I here mean such as arise from visible objects, either when we have them actually in our view or when we call up their ideas into our minds by paintings, statues, descriptions, or any the like occasion. We cannot indeed have a single image in the fancy that did not make its first entrance through the sight. But we have the power of retaining, altering, and compounding those images, which we have once received, into all the varieties of picture and vision that are most agreeable to the imagination. For by this faculty, a man in a dungeon is capable of entertaining himself with scenes and landscapes more beautiful than any that can be found in the whole compass of nature.
Making the distinction, the very important distinction that was made by Wordsworth and Coleridge between fantasy and imagination, and effectively they have opposite characteristics. Fantasy takes you, in brief, away from reality, but imagination is the only way that we can find our way into reality. And when we see what look to us to be representations of something, if we look deeply enough into them, not turning away from them, but actually looking through them, we arrive at a real sense of reality. So Wordsworth and Coleridge are very, very clear about this, that the imagination is not just something that's used by artists and poets. It is something we use all the time when we really make contact with reality. And we don't do that a lot of the time, particularly as we grow older. They thought, particularly Wordsworth thought, that when he was a child and a young man, or even by the time he was a young man, the process of being enclosed in what he called a prison house had begun. But that connection that is immediate between, not between the perception and what's here, but what lies deeper than the perception, the entity of the thing, is revealed to you. Now, I think.
Okay, one brief note before I throw to Olson. Here he mentions Wordsworth and Coleridge, who would also be in this critical theory, these writers and poets who are writing about poetry and literature and what that means for the human being. And yesterday in the Vervaeke and Adam Walker video that I thought was unrelated, I believe Walker also brought to the forefront Wordsworth and Coleridge. So that's just like an interesting connection from yesterday to today. I'm going to shut up. Olson, what do you got for us?
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, this is deep stuff. These are usually I start off with the questions of like, what's the weather like? I think I had multiple thoughts, but because my mind can only hold half a thought at a time, I don't remember the earlier ones from the thing you were reading. So you'll get the most recent one, and that was in his talking. It made me think somebody talked yesterday or 2 days ago or whatever about what it means to be human, and somebody mentioned prayer. And was that Michael? Anyways, I think it was. And I think part of the integral part of prayer is the imagination, is projecting like there is another, whether it's God or somebody else. I guess fundamentally it would be God, right? There is an other, and I can commune with him in a way. And I think it's fundamental because whatever our understanding of being human is, needs to incorporate those who are still in utero and those who are nonverbal or deaf, dumb, blind, like my aunt confined to her bed, unable to speak or move, and things like that, right? So the imagination, being able to project either into the future or just visualize something that's not physical space, right? I think is key to our soul, and to our spirit, because right, it says God is spirit, and what did God do? He created. You can only create if you have an understanding of something outside of physical space that you can then bring into physical space, into the chaos. So I don't know.
No, that's really interesting. At 5:20 a.m., I'm going to link what Olson just said to what McGilchrist is saying to the Cain and Abel story. So I have time for 12 minutes of open conversation. And yes, I am a live stream dictator. I tried to unmute you, Scott, but it looks like you muted yourself.
Yeah, Olson, I think that was really good, man. The fact that we commune in the imaginary with God through prayer. That's good.
There it is, Michael. I think it was Michael who was saying that earlier. So he's back now. Yeah. There you go.
What did I say?
Were you talking about prayer the other day and what it means to be human?
I don't think so, but I was saying, well, I did say something about like why we can't rely on like language ability or whatever as the definition. I do think it probably is connected to prayer, because I always think of like about infancy and the dependency of infants, and like when a baby cries, it's like it's like what Paul says, whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord will be saved, or there's one name you'll be saved, which is the name of Jesus, and Jesus literally means salvation. And so it's like every time a baby is like, feed me, like save me, It's like that is a prayer of faith in some way, in some sense, and they're completely unable to do anything about it. So, I think that that's a very human, essential aspect.
The cry.
Yeah.
Also, when Ethan was talking about the first part, I was thinking of your book. I was like, oh, that sounds similar to what Michael wrote. So, and then he came on and said it, so that was good.
I got one more thing that's a little bit off the current trail, but it's about the visual. I believe it was in what you were reading prior to, and how the visual does something. And the thought that I had was that the eye is a girdle point, because it takes the images of the world and flips it upside down to hit your retina.
Mm. He just drops it and mutes. It's like, see ya.
You know, well, that's interesting because when I was doing a lot of thinking and writing about, I didn't publish any of this, but like, because I was so confused by the Orthodox distaste for musical instruments, which I think is a little more nuanced now. But at some points, it was like absolutely not, no musical instruments. But the weird thing is that both the ear and like the vocal cords are basically composed of musical instruments. Every musical instrument that we have like mimics some aspect of what the ear does or what the mouth and the throat does. So it's just kind of weird. But basically it is a thing of like, you know, it's filtering and shaping information to make it more precise, or to make it so it will reach certain people and not other people. Almost kind of like, you know, Jesus' parables. Like it's like you tweak your message for like the right signal to noise, so it gets the point across that you want it to. So yeah.
I think the ear and vocal cords, I think that's a issue of form determines function. That's like a biological axiom.
Form determines function. And so when we build musical instruments, we're trying to find the right form. And so we're copying created forms that already work well.
Mm-hmm. We're creating forms that work with, that function well with the forms that God has already created, right? So the eardrum, right, is the vibration, and so we're creating forms. Vibration. So we're creating forms that are able to pick that up, and then our vocal cords are able to interact with the vibrations of the ear, and so those forms and functions.
Can we create new forms?
I don't think so. First thought that came to my mind was the Platonic forms.
I mean, not with our body. Although we could refine the forms. We already have, like, people who are exceptionally skilled at doing, like, I don't know why this popped in my head, but like jugglers, right? They have perfected forms of touch and of spatial awareness and vision. Or who are the wine people, like sommeliers or whatever? Like they've honed their forms, so it's almost like a extra sensory level, because it's better than mine, than most of us.
Well, you know, the other thing that's interesting, I think, about that is like when you try to say like trying to create something new or whatever. Jordan Hall talked about this too, like the difference between like tone and like rhythm is really just like there is no difference, because if you because you say like if you just hit like a drum or something and it doesn't really have a tone, but if you speed it up, eventually the frequency, that's what we measure pitch in frequency, and it's like if you break it down, if you slow it down, it's eventually just the same as just like a rhythmic thing. It's not and so it's in the like, so it's like a spectrum. It's like it turns into like we perceive it as pitch on one end, and on the other one we really just, when you get down to like the low frequencies, you don't even really hear them, you feel them, because it's literally just like the air pressure moving your eardrum or your body or whatever. So it's like, I don't know, the energy just translates into like different forms. We kind of put the like the limits on, like, we put a break here and we say, well, everything on this side is rhythm and everything on this side is pitch or whatever, but they're not actually really like super different.
Sorry, guys. I got to go. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Later.
You guys have a great day.
Hi, Scott. Although I hope he didn't tear up the pasture too much with his driving.
Well, I think the pastor was inside the vehicle. I think he was a little like mobile pastor driving through the wilderness. That's how I was imagining it.
Oh, I did not have that mental image. That's a lot better mental image than his tearing up the pasture with his driving. Because I was gonna, I was hoping to lay down there later on, and didn't want all these ruts in the way.
Okay, I'm gonna make the K-enable pitch now. Okay, where is Genesis 4? So Abel became a herder of sheep, while Cain was a tiller of the soil. And it happened in the course of time that Cain brought from the fruit of the soil an offering to the Lord. And Abel too had brought from the choice firstlings of his flock. And the Lord regarded Abel and his offering, but he did not regard Cain and his offering. And Cain was very incensed, and his face fell. And the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you incensed? And why is your face fallen? For whether you offer well or whether you do not, at the tent flap sin crouches, and for you is its longing, but you will rule over it." And this last little section is interesting because it's always like, the text is always offset, because it's like a fragment or a whole of a very old poem that gets inset in Genesis. And normally people like, the translation is like, sin is crouching at your door. So this one says, at the tent flap, sin crouches. And I spent a couple of years thinking about, like, where is that door? Like, God tells Cain, sin is crouching at your door. At the tent flap, sin crouches. And it's like, is Cain inside of a tent? Because if Cain's not inside a tent, if Cain is outside and God's like, yo, tent flap, sin's crouching, where's the tent flap? And I kind of treated it like a riddle where I just rolled it around. And then eventually I had this realization, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I'm going with it, that I actually think that the tent flap is the imagination. And here's my like set of proofs. I don't know if either of you have ever lusted after a woman before, but for me, it happens in my imagination. I don't know if you've ever been angry before and wanted to kill someone, but that also happens in my imagination. And then I just went to like the Ten Commandments and I went, oh my goodness, I imagine it before I act it out. And even in like our law categories, it's like the more you imagine, the more we're going to punish you. Because I think that's right? I think a crime of passion gets you less time than premeditated, which is just imagined. And I was like, what is the imagination? I think that like it's basically a door you can open and then you go out into it. I think it's like a whole, I mean, to be honest, I think it's a whole world. I think it's a territory that the human being is capable of traversing. I also think that it's basically pretty close to what people would call like the spirit world. I think there's a door inside of us that we can open and like go into a place where spirits are. So that's my crazy claim this morning at 5:21 a.m.
That's I don't know where Michael went, so I guess I'll have to respond.
I'm so sorry for you.
That was that's really good. That's really insightful, and I'll have to think about that. I'll have to mull it. I'll have to chew on that cud for a little while. I do wonder what like Yosef or Hezi might say on that, and their interpretations of it.
Man, when the Jews find out what I'm doing in the mornings, I'm gonna be in so much trouble.
Well, Hezi's not in the morning, right? It's like it's almost noon. It's like lunchtime there.
Hezi sent me a message yesterday and was like, "Keep up the good work in the morning." I was like, "Yes, sir."
So yeah, I think it definitely could be, and I think it's a helpful thing to think about and to incorporate into our understanding. So even if that's not like scripturally what they were initially talking about, I think it can be helpful for us to think of it like that.
I think it's well, I was going to say something about how females are symbolically temple like in structure, and like where is the tent flap going to be, but if I said that, then it would just do something bad in your imagination, so I'm not going to say that, but but I think you're right, like about what you were saying, and I think that's why Paul uses coveting as like the example of the sin, like that he can't overcome or whatever in Romans. Like I think what people think is like, oh well, that's like the one nobody's like, everybody's going to be fine. Like, oh yeah, like you don't want to confess to murder. But like covetousness or whatever, like that's a little one. It's like, no, it's not a little one. It's the one that comes before all the other ones, which is I think why it's the last one. It's like, because you can go, and that's even like what I'm thinking. I'm like, Paul's like looking at this list of commandments, and he's like, yeah, I've never been idolatrous. I've never disobeyed my parents. I never murdered. I never committed adultery. I didn't lie. I've done these things. And then he gets to that last one, and he's like, oh, I do this one. And then it's like, if you think about it, if the things that you do in your mind are in some sense, which I think to God, who is omniscient, the same as like what you do in the flesh, then you've already you break all the other ones when you start going with your imagination in the wrong way.
But like, where does temptation and imagination come up in that? Because like I think my experience with imagination and temptation is often the temptation, whenever that is, just kind of comes to mind. Kind of like it almost has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
And so it's like, then to turn away is, you know, a strength can be a strenuous thing. Like this morning, I was thinking about, I was like doing my prayer, and I have there's a whole thing happening in the world that's like trying to pull my attention towards that while I'm actually trying to get through this prayer exercise. And I can like there's this tug of war happening like actively. And I think in the past I would think, well, I'm doing it wrong, or there's something wrong with me, or something like this. And it's like, well, obviously there's something wrong with me because I'm a person. But there's also this like that's I think like the whatchamacallit dudes, the Orthodox dudes call it logismoi or logisme or something like that. And that's like this thing. And so, yeah, I think that's why it's important to actively be immersed in a spiritual way of life. Well, I should stop there. I should say this: everything is a spiritual way of life. Where are you aimed? I guess is what's vital.
Well, I think I mean, I think as powerful as the imagination is, it can be even more powerful in a redemptive sense if you're doing it rightly. So, like, this was actually a really interesting, just little clip I had seen. It was Niam Bialik, the girl from The Big Bang Theory that's a real scientist. She was talking about ADHD and people that have rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is like, yes, I have that. As soon as I found out that was an actual thing, I'm like, okay, that explains my whole life, because it amplifies like any sense of like rejection to like just an extreme where and that shapes your behavior. It makes you less willing to take risks. But the interesting thing that she said is that one of the ways that it's a coping mechanism that people have with that is like is using the imagination, because and this is like, oh yes, this is a skill that I developed, and it's like I'm glad that I have this skill, because it's like the thought of like, this person has hurt me so much, and if I think like they did it on purpose, then that's like horrible. And how can I can't be in a relationship with somebody that would do something to hurt me so much on purpose. But then you say, well, you basically like craft a world to explain like why this happens to you. And then, and in doing that, you're kind of like absolving them of the guilt. And that's basically, that's, at some point it's like, yeah, I realized like, oh, people do like senseless things all the time, and they have no idea how much it affects the people around them, and they have no idea about it. So there's no point in blaming them. It's just something, forgive them and move on, and like it's part of life. And so I think that's like a really, when we use our imagination to love people, and that's a good, and I think that's even the same thing, like when people come up with like weird heresies or something, it's like, I think it's always because like the people who claim to be speaking the truth are not living it. And so then they're like, they can't be right about that because this is horrible. So I'm just going to come up with some other weird explanation and that's like why you have like schisms and things like that. I think a lot of the times it's because it's just people are hurt. Not always, but yeah.
Olson, as a true luminary of TLC, what would you like to say before the Chris Howard show starts in about 30 seconds?
No, yeah. Others, yeah, I guess that sums it. Go see Chris Howard.